Okay, how's that sound?
A lot louder.
That is a lot louder.
A lot louder.
I was like, wow, do I really pronunciate really well, and everyone speaks quiet?
Just a booming voice.
No, I just put that mic audio too low.
These are great mics. Good
Thanks.
on you for going all the way.
I got lucky. My friend works at Guitar Center. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I got lucky.
I found them in the trash.
Yeah, she helped me choose everything. I had no clue what to do.
Good. I'm trying to figure out the audio stuff. I think it's really cool. I just don't know the technical stuff, but I really enjoy it.
I like this, and then this is the cheaper version of the Shure mic.
Okay.
So it's more affordable.
Well, it's great. It's got like the pop filter, whatever it's called, over it already. That's great.
Yeah, it sounds really good. And then I got this editing software called Isotope that helps put over it. Oh, I've been trying to get this started for, I think, 7 months now.
Really? You're doing it.
Okay.
You're doing it.
Being here. This is Henry Sir.
Howdy.
A lot of the episodes, I forget to tell people their name. It doesn't matter.
It's in the caption. It's in the title. They know. They're not dumb. They might be. I don't know.
They might be dumb.
They're people.
Yeah, Florida was cool. When you travel a lot doing stand-up?
Decent amount. It's being Canadian in that sense. I'm pretty lucky because for whatever reason, that sounds too like diminishing, because I've been doing comedy for a while and I've like gone hard at it. But there's some clubs, because like I don't have like a following, but there's some clubs in the States that have been cool enough to have me headline and stuff. But in Canada, that's not as much of a thing. So it's a little easier for me to go out on the road, and it's fun. Like, just spread your legs and feel like a proper comic and go do weekends where you're doing like 45 minutes to an hour, and lucky to be able to do that pretty often now.
Yeah, it's hard to work up to that time when your sets are 10 to 15 minutes.
LA's really, it's so hard here I find it so challenging from a stand-up standpoint here, just in the sense of someone who's like so addicted to just wanting to do as much stand-up as humanly possible. And the thing that used to, like, especially pre-COVID, I thought was a pretty good strength of mine is I'd have so many ideas that I could pretty quickly get into varying degrees or whatever, but like a reasonably like well-crafted bit. And now just kind of showcasing the same stuff over and over again, there's times where I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever write another joke, which isn't true, because I've realized I had, like, especially when I went back to Canada, I had to look back and be like, oh, I've got a lot of new stuff that's actually like better than my stuff before, but in the moment it doesn't always feel that way.
Yeah, you know? Or, well, sometimes there's the opposite, where there's that one that you don't try and you just write it instantly and it works instantly and it's in your set. Oh God, could you imagine if they were all like that?
Oh man, but I wonder how you feel about that, because what I've come to, at least for now, I realize every time I think like this is for sure what I believe in stand up, 2 years later I'm like, oh, I don't really think that at all. But for now, what I've come to realize living here is what I really enjoy about stand up is the whole process of figuring out what is a good bit. And then once it's a good bit, after however long it takes to hone it into that, I kind of don't like telling it anymore. Like, I enjoy when you can structure your thoughts into this new thing and it evokes that specific reaction. But I almost inevitably feel kind of lame going up and being like, this thing that I know is going to make you laugh, I'm going to say it, and it's almost going to be as if like, this is just off the cuff. It just feels ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that's why your favorite jokes at first, why they start not working. Because we lose the excitement and the high we get off of this new thing working. We don't change anything, but I think the audience is so sensitive. They can feel that we don't love this anymore.
It's like you don't mean it, right? That's what I found is cool, though, when you go back is if you're telling a joke that you haven't told for a while and you mean it again and you're like, all right, that was fun. And what I've been trying to do, because I've been in a bit of a writing rut for the last little while, so I'm going back to old joke books of jokes that I wrote a long time ago, but I don't know if I was like good enough to actually like get across what I was trying to figure out there. So it's like old but new, and it's exciting because it's like, oh, I'm at it, I think, and I'll watch back in a few years and be like, good Lord, you were terrible. But better now enough to do those and actually mean them. And yeah, I totally, the audience knows. The audience knows when you actually give a shit about what you're saying. I can swear, right? I assume I can swear.
Oh, we talk buttholes, anything is
Butthole
open.
Is a swear for sure.
Buttholes. We talk deep anus.
Those are all swears.
That was the first time I've ever said deep anus.
Won't be the last time.
No, definitely not.
Not on this episode.
Not that I've opened that portal. That's so funny you said that. I started rewriting my old jokes about maybe like 6 months ago. I did a weekend of shows where I got a good amount of time. And then the weekend ended, and I said, holy shit, I hate everything. I said, I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, I think I have 3 minutes of material. I know. And he was like, that's not good.
That's not ideal.
I was like, I know. So I kept going back and forth, and all I could think was I just want to refix everything. Yeah. Because it's like, should I just start over? And I was like, I can, but I need these work. They worked.
Yeah, totally. I think I've had similar little struggles with myself of doing sets and being like, I don't think I've ever had an actual joke in my life. And then I've had ones where it's really weird when I have ones that in my mind, I'm such a bad judge sometimes, because in my mind I'm like, this is phenomenal. It's never gonna laugh. And then ones where I'm just like, I don't think this is anything. Like I honestly think this is like a sentence to eventually get to a joke, and that always does pretty well. And then I'm like, when I look back, I'm like, okay, I guess that's funny. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Yeah, but I've had that feeling so many times when I'm like, I don't have any time. I don't know how I've ever done a set because I don't have a single joke. It's crazy. It's
terrifying. Or when you have like a really good show and you're feeling all your jokes and you're like, well, next show, I'm sure that's not gonna be a thing.
I know it's so hard because like the everyone says it, and I think especially in LA the highs and the lows are like even more exaggerated. I was gonna say exacerbated. I think that's a word. I don't know, let's get with exaggerated.
Okay.
But the highs and lows are so much more dramatic, and
good word change.
Yeah, I'm just using every word I can think of. I don't even know what my point was anymore. I'm just thinking of all thesaurus words I can use for the same name. But I think what I was trying to say. Dramatic, exacerbated, exaggerated. No, I think what I was trying to say is I don't even know what I was trying to say. It's hard trying to stay in like the pocket and in the moment of being like, this is good and I'm good, and then a day later be like, I'm not even a comedian. What am I doing? It's hard. It's really challenging. And I know we're all, not all of us, but so many of us are nuts to begin with. And there's a reason we're doing this, but especially in LA, and I don't even mean it as like a complaint, just more of an observation. I find it that much more challenging.
I want to go back to why that's more challenging, but my thought is, if I didn't lose it yet, was, what I try to do now, recently, we'll see how long this healthy habit lasts. Yeah. I'll give it another day or two.
Yeah, totally.
But after a bad set, or not even a bad set, just one where you don't get the high. That's all it is. I try to hold on. I'm like, there had to have been one thing I got from that set.
Right. Yeah.
And there's just a little thing, and then just write down your little baby nugget, and there's a small win each day. It's a fly.
Get out of here, man.
Hey!
Get going.
This is a 2-person podcast.
Unbelievable. Even the flies are narcissistic in LA.
LA is crazy. Do you see how skinny that fly was? They probably didn't even see it.
Just great body on that fly.
Man, that wingspan. Wait, but why is LA's the harder in the sense that you don't get as much stage time?
I think so. I think that's pretty much, for me at least, all it comes down to of it being like, I just really love doing stand-up, and the more I've done it, like, I don't even think anymore, like, I don't even know if I think I'm good at it. I just love doing it. And like nothing gives me the like kind of creative fulfillment stand-up gives me, and that's kind of all I'm after, is just wanting to feel very creatively fulfilled. And I'm 34 now, and I've honestly just kind of got to that point of realizing like that's what I'm trying to really ultimately do. And I was only briefly in New York, but it's like everybody says, you can do a lot more spots there.
But are they all shitty shows?
No, I mean, a lot of them were, and some of them weren't. And the kind of my goal that I had a lot of tunnel vision for was like, I, get past at all the good clubs and just be kind of doing that cool Manhattan, go from this one to that one, to be like 5 spots a night. And I don't know how long that would have taken, but I kind of had a sense of like, I think that could be in the cards. And it made more sense, especially post-COVID, to come back out here. And I came out here just before COVID. And it's cool. And I don't want this to sound like I'm complaining. It's just sometimes the lack of stage time just makes me go a little bit nuts. And also doing it for a while, and I feel like, not in any kind of entitled delusional I'm owed something way, just as a stand-up, I feel a lot better, and I just want to be doing as much of it as humanly possible. And it can really be challenging. How does it make you feel?
I get when I don't have either, like, say you're working so much where you don't get the time, you don't get the stage time, because I'm the same way. This is my passion. Yeah. I've never asked anyone if I should do this. I've never questioned myself. I'm just lucky, you're lucky to be given that thing. We know what we want.
Yeah,
and then the rest of the stuff we have to figure out and how to do it every day.
That's the challenge.
But the fact that we just love it that much that it's not even a question is a gift. But there's not enough stage time. I try to write more, but when I don't I just feel, I get upset. Because it's like, I get upset because you care so much. And you're like, sometimes I'll call my mom. I'm like, I can't get it done. I've been working all day. And how am I supposed to get better? And I just freak out because it feels like you're being suffocated and held back and drowning. And you want to swim. It's like trying to swim without knowing how to swim.
Absolutely. No, I totally get it. And it's hard because I don't want to project my resentments onto other people unfairly. But if I'm just being completely honest, sometimes those do get the better of me in the sense of, coming into this, it's not a meritocracy and it's completely arbitrary. And now I do feel more than ever with social media, that's kind of what it is, because there's such like a lottery system to it where there's a lot of comics who are really, really good and they've been at it for a long time. Then a video will blow up and they kind of blow up and then it sets them off, and that's great. And then you see other comics, I'm sorry to be an asshole, but suck, are terrible at comedy. And that's just in my,
it's how it is.
No, it's true. It's how it is. It's just like posting
facts.
These like insane, clearly overly edited crowd work videos with like all these like images popping up, and it's a laugh track. And now they're like selling out clubs and like cool for them. But what you said, I think, comes down to is like when you have a passion and you actually love this thing, and sometimes it's like that kind of feeling of like it's probably like when you love somebody and they don't love you back in a way, real or imagined. That's kind of how it sometimes feels. And for me, I it's not a good thing, and I am working on it, but it's so easy to focus on what you don't have instead of what you do have, instead of like, for me, looking at the progress I am making here. But it's just a challenge because I've genuinely never been interested in trying to like pursue fame. And now that's what feels like should be the priority over actually just trying to be as best a stand-up as I can. Because you can be a really, really, there's a lot of really, really good stand-ups out there, but if they don't prioritize social media or building up their following or whatever, it's kind of like, well, like I question what does it really matter? And that's a mind fuck,
We had an argument the other day. It was like a group of people after a show. We were all hanging out about, does social media matter?
Yeah.
And it 100% does, because the people who suck and that have a big following will get the shows over the best comic that doesn't have a following.
Yeah, totally.
There's not even a question about it.
No, and I don't think the industry or anybody would even like deny that at this point. And it's just, it's tough, and I really don't want this on my own side to make it sound like I'm making excuses, because
doesn't sound like that.
Okay, good. I just want to be sure, because I don't want to be that cynical guy that's thinking like, "Oh, am I not doing all that?" That's not what I mean. Because like I have had to take stock in being like I'm in a good spot here, and like I'm lucky to like headline clubs in Canada and stuff. And if I stick at it, I think there's reason to believe you can keep moving up. But I don't have a good mind for social media, and it makes me feel so shitty about myself, whether I'm posting stuff or not. I really struggle with mental health stuff. like clinical depression and anxiety and OCD. And so I get really obsessed, and social media, like it does for so many people, makes me really suffer mentally. And that's a thing that, not to go on too many tangents, but really does piss me off. And I've said this before, but how disingenuous so many people are, including a lot of tons of different industries, but this kind of whole idea of we're all mental health advocates and mental health advocates. Like, you can't have both. You can't be a mental health advocate, but also be like, hey, this thing that like statistically will show you is terrible for your mental health. If you're not present on this enough, we're going to pretend you don't exist.
100%.
It's so blatantly hypocritical and transparent, like so many things.
Everything is.
Everything. And like, I'd like to, again, not to go on a rant, but I'd like to think I'm
get it out.
I'd like to think I'm a pretty progressive, and in my own way, liberal person, but just about like every like liberal progressive thing right now has just been hijacked by disingenuous people that are trying to say all the right things, not because they actually mean it, but just to pat themselves on the back. And especially in this city, last thing I'll bitch about on this, it is wild to me how many people are these ultra progressive, on the right side of history, champions for the marginalized, and are just a bunch of bitch ass rich white kids.
It's always that.
It's insane.
They want to have some kind of, they want us to be forced to listen to them.
Yeah. The gatekeepers, they suck. The people keeping the gates are always these Ivy League bitch ass rich kids whose parents paid for them to live in Manhattan while they did an unpaid internship that one summer. But they're talking about like, we really want to lift up marginalized boys. Like, then give someone else your job, you fucking idiot.
That's like when the Me Too movement happened, and it's a bunch of A-list female celebrities talking about it while my ass is getting slapped at the back of a Chili's.
Right.
Like, no one cares about us.
I know. It's insane.
You can't tell on the restaurant manager and keep your job. You'll get fired in a second. You're the one that needs the money because you can't get fired.
Exactly. And that's the tough thing when you hear about all that stuff and you see some people in comedy where like, you never want to see anybody whenever they do, like for me at least, you don't want to see people actively like not do well. But to mention what you said, when you really care about something, it can get really challenging when like I don't have the system in place, and I wouldn't want to, but to be like, well, I'll just do my thing during the day and I'll get my rent covered by whoever. And then hopefully one day I can like pay back. It's like, no. And especially it's challenging because my wife finally got her visa, which is great, but she's Canadian too. But I've been the one who's like, I have to provide all the income, and LA's not a cheap city. And
not at all.
And I don't come from like a rich family, and I've never had money myself. So it's really hard, like working. At times it's felt like, fuck, I'm working like 19-hour days where it's like you have to work during the day, get home, you have barely any time. Then I need to like make sure I get some writing in and then go do the hustle, whether I'm on shows or not, and get home, go to bed, and do it all over again. And there are those times where it's like, I love this thing and I can't imagine doing anything else. But when it feels so, I don't think I'm like owed anything, but it's like you'd like to think, and I see this for a lot of people, not just me, like you treat people well, you work hard, hopefully you're pretty decent at it, that it'll pay off. And I think, and I hope it will, but there's also times where I'm like, I don't know if any of this means anything, because if I just like post a video of me like laughing it up in a thumbnail and then like doing fart noises on stage, that's going to be more important than any of this, you know?
It will. And at least we just figured out what you need to do.
Henry reacts.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things about doing this podcast is I was doing the videos for a while, trying to do my own version of a reel that felt genuine to me.
Good.
And it did. And they did. I got nothing.
Yeah.
But every video I posted, I liked.
That's so important.
But then I was like, okay, well, this isn't working. And then I've always wanted to do this podcast because the theme of it is just why I do stand-up. Because when you have something miserable happen, you're like, I can make this into a joke.
Yeah.
It's just the best. Most people just have to say, well, that fucking sucked.
Yeah. No, totally. That's a great point. And it's that's interesting. I'm really curious to hear about your thoughts on that, because trying to like think up stuff to share for this, I was able to, but I'm I am really not like at all any kind of storytelling comic. I'm much more like, all I do is like, I think this is interesting. What do you think? That's like all I'm saying up there.
I'm not a storytelling comic either, but all of my jokes stem from a truth.
Right. Yeah. And I guess in a way I kind of am that, but more than anything, I'm just like trying to point out like hypocrisy, and that could be as like something political or something as stupid as like not even hypocrisy, but interesting contradictions in life. That's literally like all my set is I find this interesting and I hope I can express that it's interesting. So you go.
I think it was in Comedians in Cars, Jerry Seinfeld and Zach Galifianakis. In the beginning of the episode, I can't quote it, I can't remember it, but he says something, such a good line. I know I wrote it down in my notes because it was so good. But he says, like, the job of a comedian is find something interesting and then just making it funny that you think is interesting.
Yeah.
It's a very simplified way of saying it.
Totally.
But whatever he said, I was like, yeah, Jerry.
You nailed it, JS. What is the deal with Pop-Tarts?
It's interesting.
No, that's great. That's great. And no, I think that is such a fun thing about it. And like I said, I've just kind of come to realize I've always been most fulfilled when I'm being creative, and I've really gotten back into, I'm not good at it, but I really like doodling and drawing, and I really like playing guitar and drums, and I like recording music, not so I can be in a band. It's such a good practice of creativity, and stand-up's just, I've been doing it so long now that I've come to really love it, but it's just the most easy outlet to actually get it out and share it with people. And I really like that ability to, just take interesting thoughts and see if you can convey them to a group of strangers and make them laugh. And I also really like the relatability and just connecting with strangers, because I do remind myself this, and this is something that makes me feel a lot more grateful for the spot I'm in stand-up, is you see it so much, inevitably the bigger a comic gets, which is what you want because you want to get booked, you can go get all your weekends and hopefully make more money and all that good stuff, but inevitably you're going to stop getting an honest reaction about whether you're funny or not if you get too big. Because now 100%. It's just people are happy to see the person they saw on the box, whether that was the TV or the movie or the YouTube or whatever. But it's a really great feeling when you go up there and you're like, I know nobody knows who the fuck I am. But when you kill, it's like, oh, I really earned that. And that's like what I'm trying to do here. So I need to take a few steps back. And I'm sure you can relate to that too.
They will let you know. One time I watched my set back, not one time, multiple times, before something clicked of what was off. And that was the moment I deleted all my material. It was this. Oh. I was watching it and I said, no one knows who I am. No one gives a fuck about anything I have to say. Right. I was watching it thinking, I don't even want to listen to what I'm saying.
Right. Interesting.
This isn't good. This is not good.
Yeah, I've had a few of those. I remember so many times, and I'm sure hopefully I look back to this phase of stand-up thinking like, I'm pretty good at this. And then I watched it back years later, and I was like, this is objectively bad.
It's like you never enjoy being skinny when you're skinny. Right. And then you look back, you're like, man, I looked so good.
I looked incredible. And look at me now. I'm disgusting.
Fuck. Give me the donut.
Seriously.
Kettle Glaze is right down there if you've ever been there. Great donuts.
Trying to get off the donuts. I'm not a huge... I like donuts.
I know.
I don't go out of my way to get donuts. If a donut's there, I might have half of one. Mm-hmm. I've had so many times where I've fluctuated of like putting on a bunch of weight, having to lose the weight in the donuts. It's a delicious treat, but it's a no-go.
I would never get one on my own. It's a good, if you have to go somewhere and bring people some stuff, get some fucking donuts.
Nothing beats a good, sprinkly, pretty donut. Guaranteed.
One thought more on the social media. A positive thing. We were looking at people on social media that were older, probably like mid-40s, that never made it, still hustling, or they made it in a sense.
Sure.
But are still in our position of the social media drowning. But they're so much older to where they don't know what looks good.
Right. Yeah.
And you're seeing them try to post their videos and it looks so bad. It's just the words on the top and the bottom.
Oh, God.
But like all blurry and zoomed in, but they're taking the time and you just makes you just be helpful. At least you have the tools to know, not that you have the time to do it, but know what to do when you can figure it out.
That's a genuine fear of mine, and like I'm pretty sure that's what my stuff will look like. But no, that's like a fear of mine in comedy, and I know it's stupid to give yourself an age limit of like by this time, if this hasn't happened, I'm done. And that's not what I want to fall into, because I did used to kind of think like that, but it's a genuine fear of mine. Like, Am I going to be that like 68-year-old guy that's like still showing up in a bomber jacket, like trying to look castable? I feel so bad. I don't know his name, and I don't want to be an asshole because it's like, live your life the way you want to live. And if you're not hurting anybody, whatever. But I saw this one. I've seen him around a bunch. He's like old as shit. He's just like a geriatric, and he dresses like like pretty much every guy in Hollywood. He's like wearing these crazy flamboyant shoes, has this crazy loud bomber jacket, and this guy's like, he looks like he's 90. And it's like, I mean, if this is how you want to spend your twilight years, cool, but I get scared. I'm like, is that gonna be me? Well, like if we have like grandkids, and like, where's grandpa? And he's at the Comedy Chateau, you know?
Oh,
trying to get on the mic. Oh no!
No, you're already past that. You don't have to worry about that.
Even if it was, and this is just like, I think a lot of us, but I do such a bad job of like getting stressed over hypotheticals that won't ever happen. But even if it was, like, let's just say I leave this room and I look at my phone, it's like, oh man, that one clip blew up, and now all of a sudden I have 100,000 followers, and then it's like, oh my god, I got another however many. Now I'm doing a Netflix special. I'm like, cool, but I also know how temporary that's going to be, which is totally fine with me. But I also have that fear of like, now am I going to be that like 50-year-old guy that's showing up to the shows with like a backwards snapback? And I don't know. I just like trying that's I guess what I'm ultimately trying to say is what I find a lot of comics know how to do it, but more than enough comics do not know how to age with any kind of dignity or grace. And you see them now, and they like pull up to a show, and they're on, and you're just like, "What? Are you out of like? I thought you were one of the successful ones, and you're more sad than anybody." That shit's scary to me.
It is terrifying,
you know,
and how quickly you can get it and lose it.
Oh man!
But I think with stand up more than acting, if when you get it, you'll have your longtime fans that will still pull.
That's it. As long as that's why I don't get too worried about that, because I'm not in this for fame. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm done being naive and just understanding like you need to build a following, which and I get it. Clubs don't want to book you and be like, oh, trust me, he's hilarious. He doesn't. No one's ever heard of him, but he's hysterical. As opposed to some fucking jerk off who has 800 million followers, even though he's terrible at stand up. I get why they book the jerk off, but show business, am I right? But I think that's what's cool about stand up is like, you don't have to be famous per se. You just need to build a bit of a following, and then if you're good enough stand up, you can still just, you know, flex that muscle and scratch that itch as long as you have it. And I think that's a good thing about it. But it is the only career where, maybe not only, but feels like it, the one where to do what you love, to do stand up, you have to do acting. You have to do this to do this. I know, that's another mind fuck with it. Is I've gone again with having I have actual OCD. I'm not one of those fucking guys that says I'm so OCD or whatever. But I'm still so obsessed with it, and I'm in a much better space and actually like a lot more content with being in LA than I have been even just a few months ago. But there's always that thought of like, I should be in New York. I should be in New York. I should be in New York. But the grass is always so much greener, because that's such a grind. Mm-hmm. And doing the, 25 spots a night and then going out on the road 48 weeks of the year, unless you're doing something like acting or you get a podcast that blows up, like you need to be doing something else. If like, in a way, all I want to be doing is stand up, but I want it to be fun. I don't want it to be so crushing and exhausting that it takes the fun away from it. And I think stuff like acting can facilitate that. Cheers, man. Oh, God, what have we done? So we've already been talking about so many wieners, but do you have a wiener in mind? I have a lot of wieners in mind. I do have a wiener in mind. I flew home yesterday from Edmonton. That feels so weird to say I flew home from Edmonton. Jesus Christ. But, I flew back to LA from Edmonton yesterday, and this guy was he was a wiener. His perfect word for him was a wiener. Is we were on like the ride share shuttle that takes you out to get like a lift or whatever, and it doesn't help that he was really handsome and he had great body, just not jacked, muscular guy.
LA douche.
Good clothes, good outfit.
Fancy shoes, like the cool shoes?
Yeah, it was like the cool, laceless, almost a sandal shoe, but looked real sharp. And he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and I love Hawaiian shirts, and it was a great Hawaiian shirt. And it just pissed me off. He had a great jawline and a really good head of hair. And he was just talking to
You have a great head of hair.
Great's a little much. It's a head of hair. It's not.
I wish you were wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
I wish I was wearing. I love Hawaiian shirts. I always have. Have you heard of Degrassi?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I mean, I never watched it.
Well, so you've heard of because of Drake?
I know he was the wheelchair character.
Yeah, but there's
so funny.
It's fantastic. But I didn't like that one. But Degrassi is like a Canadian institution, and there were all of these series before that one, and there was this character called Joey Jeremiah who wore Hawaiian shirts, and there was a Canadian children's book about a penguin named Tacky who wore Hawaiian shirts, and they were like my heroes. So I always wore Hawaiian shirts. Anyways,
I will look this up.
Yeah. Point of that being, this guy, he was just that guy who was like really like spread out, and he was talking to his colleague like without making eye contact with her, and like chewing gum with his mouth open, which is so arrogant. And he complained about everything and bragged about everything at the same time. He was just talking, like as soon as I came on the shuttle, he was just pissing and moaning because he brought a loaded gun through TSA a few weeks ago.
What?
Yeah, and he's like, and they're like, hey man, you can't take this. And I was like, yo, I forgot. Easy mistake. We've all forgot when we're packing. And so they say like he gets banned from TSA for 5 years. And that was like his only thing. And he's just pissing and moaning. He's like, so for the next, I fly over 500 times a year, which I'm like, that's not physically possible. But he was just going on. He's like, now I have to just walk through. And everyone who's not TSA or whatever is just sitting or standing there.
Pre-check?
I think that's what it is, right? Yeah. And he's just like, now I have to talk to me like I'm some kind of fucking idiot. And he's just pretty much saying like, all of you poor pieces of shit, they're going to treat me like that. And then he's like, but of course, I turned it into a business opportunity because I had to open my wallet and all these business cards come flying out and they're like, what are these? And I start going through my business cards. Before I know it, I'm giving him my business card. And then his colleague's just like, same thing happened to me a while ago. They thought I was driving drunk just because I was so tired, got a business op out of it. And I just wanted to like tuck and roll. And then I'm telling you, it was like however long that was, he didn't shut the fuck up. And all he did was complain about everything and then brag about why it was so stupid, but how he turned it into an opportunity to be the man. And what sucked is I was like, I looked at him when he like went through his phone. Beautiful wife, looks like he has kids and stuff, and I was like, this guy has a great life, and he's got that like stupid, dumbass, narcissistic, arrogant thing where he's gonna have no self-awareness for how much of a douchebag he is, and he's just gonna keep like winning at life. So maybe he's not a wiener, and maybe he's the goal actually. Let's get Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah, and then we should see how many social media followers he has.
We're gonna bring loaded guns next time we go on a flight, and we're gonna get a business op out of it.
That is unbelievable. I know. I think that is a golden wiener.
He's such a wiener, platinum wiener.
Wow.
Do you have a wiener? Do you share wieners on your show?
Yeah, I always share wieners, but I'm like, my wiener was just more of a very different kind of wiener. Your wiener's way better. I'll tell you my wiener. My shirt's inspired by my wiener. I was at Walgreens, and it's just, my wiener is a big broad wiener. They're already showing Halloween stuff. And then my wiener is how they put out holiday stuff too soon, and that is why the year flies by so quickly.
Interesting. So your wiener is the concept. Yeah, I don't like that either, because it's like, can't we live in the now? Can't we appreciate this last bit of... First off, it's summer every day in Los Angeles. Even when it's winter, it's summer. So shut up. Very true. But like, you don't put out Halloween stuff until the fall, until there's foliage on the ground.
We're in a heat wave.
Yeah, that is a wiener. Yeah, that is a wiener. They make time fly by, because that's going to happen, and then it's going to be Thanksgiving, then it's Christmas, then it's going to be fucking Halloween again.
And then it makes it all just fly. Because I saw that, and that was my first thought. I was like, okay, great. And then Thanksgiving, then Christmas. And then you're stressed because you're like, oh, now I have to buy my tickets to fly home.
Yeah.
And then this. What am I going to wear for Halloween? Oh, I've been eating too much for my Halloween costume. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Everything's just such like we're all such corporate shills. Everything's just consumerism and capitalism.
So that's my wiener.
That's a good wiener.
Is Cooperism. I'm going to call it that.
Cooperism. No, that's a good wiener. That's a damn good wiener.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
But your wiener wins.
Fuck that guy. Because he is a wiener, but he's not a wiener. And that's what sucks, because he's like, in by so many metrics, he's winning at life.
But deep down, by the way he was acting, you know he's miserable.
I wondered, because I honestly think he might just be too stupid to know any better. But there are some people where it's like they're too stupid to know any better because they're so stupid. You think like, well, to some degree they got to be like unhappy. But I just think he very well may be that guy who's just putting on such an act because he's so insecure, or he's just so oblivious to it all and he really thinks like, I'm the fucking man, and his name's like Johnny Vegas or something like that.
From what you said, though, I think you're right. I think he is the oblivious one that is actually.
Shit pisses me off. I'm such an in my head overthinker. And even like, I can't, even if I do something very well, I'm just like, God, you suck. And this guy sucks. And he's just like, I'm just closing deals and ringing the bell.
Well, how about this? So he might not know he sucks, but everyone else does.
Yeah, no, for sure. The majority of people on that shuttle, for sure, were giving some looks of like, well, this guy shut the fuck up. So that was a victory. He's a wiener.
Hopefully he's a winger with a small wing.
I bet he's got a wrench.
Oh, this guy.
I bet he's just got a hammer. If his jawline and his shoulders are any indication, he has a python.
Shit.
I know.
Oh, well, he can't fly for 5 years. Well, no, he can.
He just has to stand in line with us fucking idiots. Him and his huge cock.
Oh, well, that was a good one. You really brought it.
I appreciate that.
Oh, okay. So this is funny about the miserable moments. Mm-hmm. Everyone is different. Like you said, you had to think about the joke. Some people, all their jokes are fabricated. And they're like, well, I don't have.
Yeah, I just made everything up. Yeah, totally.
Some people are, oh, you know what was really interesting? Really quick. I was just listening to Harlan Williams on Tiger Belly podcast. He said he's never written a joke.
Wow.
Like he never physically written. And he's
crazy.
So funny on stage.
He's great.
But everyone just has a different, completely different process.
I know. It's so interesting. And it's so interesting to watch like your own as a comic, how it changes and evolves. Or I hate the process of writing a joke. But I used to have to write down word for word and then poorly recite a monologue. And now, especially post-COVID, because I'm not writing jokes over COVID because that's just lunatic behavior. But now I just write thoughts or words and then try and figure it out on stage. But to never have written one, that's wild. He's
impressive.
Great. He's so funny. Canadian.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, do you have a miserable moment that you did not make into a joke?
Most moments of my life, yeah. Most moments.
What's the one that stood out the most, or that you feel okay talking about?
Yeah, this one I think it's miserable. It's just kind of I'm kind of strange in the sense of, off the top of my head, I'm always I have no stories. Nothing exciting's ever happened to me. But then
That's how I always feel.
Right.
Always.
And then when you start
boring
talking,
white girl.
Yeah. But then when you start talking, you're like, oh Jesus, I've had some pretty bizarre stuff happen to me. Probably, there's just because I'm not a storyteller. I don't know if I'd ever tell this on stage, but this was pretty miserable. We so I have 3 brothers. One of them, and myself and a lot of our friends we grew up in our neighborhood with in Edmonton, we really liked, since we were little kids, filming spoof action movies.
That's amazing.
They were so fun. And then once when we were not so little, we continued to do it through college. And we a bunch of 20 and 22 year olds in the River Valley in Edmonton filming these 80s action movies kind of thing. And this one night we were in the ravine, and the props we had were so clearly plastic laser guns you would buy from Walmart that look nothing like guns and are so clearly plastic that we literally put no thought into any of these. And then one night, like this, what we think had to have happened, this couple came by, and we didn't stop to think like, hey, just so you guys know, we're not packing heat here. We're filming a movie. These aren't real. We're just like, hey, how's it going? They go through. And then a little bit later, we notice like the police helicopter was circling directly above us. And we were like, huh. Oh, actually, no, at that time we were like, oh, there must be some tomfoolery going down. It's like
as you're like,
yeah, but we assume like this is obviously has nothing to do with us. And then we like whatever, we decide it's time to go. We finish up and we see a couple cops like walking down the ravine. We're like, oh man, they must be really close to us. And then on the drive home, which is not long because we were filming in our neighborhood, we noticed, I don't know how many, but like close to like 5 cop cars driving by where we just were. And at that point we're like, there must be some sort of miscommunication. So we get back and we go to my parents' house, and I'm like, I'll wait outside in case there's any trouble, guys. And they're like going to the garage and like unpacking all of our stupid little props, and then like legitimately like 2 or 3, I can't remember, it was 2 or 3 black SWAT SUVs like rip up in front of my parents' car, and then however like a handful of cop cars rip up like on the front yard.
Shit.
And they're all out with their guns and like assault rifles within like 10 feet of us.
This is crazy.
It was insane. And they're like screaming like, get on the fucking ground, get on the fucking ground.
And the rest of your friends are inside?
Well, they were just on their way to the garage, and they came out and like, whoa, and they're like, get on the fucking ground. And so we're like, the 5 of us, however many it was, we're like on the ground with our hands on the back of their head, and they're like, where are the guns? Where are the guns? They're freaking out because they assume we have these like weapons of mass destruction.
You're like a Barbie doll at them.
It was insane. And then like, it was miserable because that was very scary to be, and embarrassing to be on your parents' front lawn with like the whole Edmonton police force wanting to shoot you.
Oh no.
And like, maybe miserable is not the right word, because it was very scary. But then once we realized what was going on, like we did realize like, and this can go into a whole probably political woke thing of like white privilege and stuff, but we weren't scared because our one friend Chris, who's black, wasn't with us, so it was just these white dudes, and we started laughing because we realized like they're not going to do anything. We don't have anything, and
this
we,
is
like,
in Canada.
Yeah, which helps.
Yeah.
And we like explained what was going on, and then one of them is just like, take us to it, and literally puts his gun on my friend's back and says, no funny business.
Oh wow.
And it's like, what's he gonna do? He was like this horribly out of shape guy. Like, is he gonna do like a backflip and like snap his neck? And then we got it. We took him to the bin full of the toys, and it was like
the toys sound so funny.
They were toys. This couldn't have gone any better. We had this He-Man sword that if you pushed a button in this crappy He-Man's voice, it says, I have the power. And one of the cops, and it was really easy to accidentally hit the button. So the cop grabs it and it says, I have the power. And they were livid. They were livid. They were so pissed because one of the guys, especially, he was like your classic SWAT guy with like a little flat top and like was doing like somersaults around, like so badly wanted to shoot one of us. And he just was like, fuck you guys, and like goes into the SWAT SUV, starts pouting. And we kind of had just like carte blanche to be like, now we can just like yell at the cops and just be like, you fucking assholes.
You're an idiot.
And like Edmonton at that time was such a violent city. People will roll their eyes, especially if they're in LA, and I get it. But like, per capita, there was like a summer where it was like the murder capital of North America or something.
Really?
It really was like every morning you'd wake up, and this was crazy because there weren't guns, so it would just be people like stabbing people to death.
Oh, that's worse.
Oh, it's worse. And anyways, that was it was a hilarious, but I also don't want to sound like more of a tough guy than I was. That's really scary when you have literal assault rifles pointed at you from 10 feet away. But again, that's too much of a story, and that's just not like my style of stand-up, so I've never talked about that on stage.
If you could find a way, because that is one hell of a
wild
story.
It's a pretty wild story. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, you're lucky that was in Canada. You're probably laughing because you're younger too.
Totally. Now that I'm more like socially conscious and stuff, I would have been a lot more upset. And like, yeah, it was wild because we were, once they left, we were laughing. My parents were laughing.
I was gonna ask what your parents said.
Well, my dad came out and he was just like, "What the hell?" And he was scared because he sees like he just like assumed like are my sons like drug lords I didn't know about or something.
Where's the money? How?
Yeah, why are these fucking guys so broke? Yeah, it was wild though. That's probably, that might be the most surreal experience I've ever had realistically.
Sounds like it. Thanks for sharing. Holy shit.
Yeah,
I have nothing that cool.
You gotta have something.
I don't know.
This is your world and I'm just living in it, Mandy.
Wow, thank you. Got 5,000 followers on Instagram. Woo!
Yeehaw, ride 'em cowboy. This must be hard for you to have to constantly come up with stories that you haven't shared on stage. Or is it not that tough?
I don't actually go into my miserable moments.
Oh, it's just the guest?
Yeah.
That's smart, because then it would inevitably become you're just going to start being like the comic who's making stuff up.
Yeah.
It was insane what happened. And then... Yeah, that's one of the more, despite having guns pointed at me, lighthearted ones. Because I've had so many miserable moments where I couldn't even imagine trying to talk about it on stage.
Yeah, some of them are great to turn into them. Others, not so much. But I don't know. If there was a way, because that's just so engaging of a story.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll try and figure that out, because that definitely is a bit unique. I don't know how many people have had a similar experience to that.
No.
And it's just the fact that it's like children's toys. That's the most heat I've ever been under.
And that the toy ended up saying something.
The fact that it actually verbally said, I have the power, could not have been more perfect. It was amazing.
That's good. Well, shit. I guess what is your one? I wish I could think of one to share now. I feel bad I'm not sharing.
As you should. Totally kidding.
Oh, the one I just posted a joke about the dating a magician.
Oh, no.
That's a miserable moment I shared, was when I thought a guy I was dating had a micro penis.
Oh.
And then it ended up being a grower, not a shower. Like a legit one. Not just like a dick to a dick. It was like, that's it, soft.
Yeah.
And then it grew.
It was a good one?
Solid dick.
Wow.
But it didn't make sense. So I made a joke that it was like a magician. I dated a magician.
I was wondering, was he actually a magician?
No.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, if he was a magician with a micro penis that just went to a hammer, that would be incredible.
It would be. But that did feel miserable at first. Because I was like holding out. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a great relationship. And then let's do it. And then I was like, no.
Oh, man.
I wouldn't say I was miserable, but it did feel, for the time, I just like...
Can't imagine being too excited. I don't think it's a body shaming thing. It's just truth. I don't know how excited one can be about a micro penis on any side. Anyone who says they're excited has to be lying.
Yeah, so he almost got shot by the police, and I almost dated a guy with a small dick. Very close stories.
Same thing.
Same thing, yeah. Pretty
Just a
much.
couple magicians doing some tricks.
All right, so what moment did you end up making into a joke?
Honestly, what's weird is I could really only think of one, and I'm sure there's more than this. But this was just like a rough 24 hours of Google searches. So I've been with my wife now, which this is insane. We haven't been married this whole time, but we've been together a long time. Like, I think in November, it'll be 15 years we've been together.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's insane. It's good. Yeah. No, it's I'm so quick to be like, it's insane. That sounds like I think it's a bad thing.
No, it didn't sound like that.
Okay,
It
good.
is insane. That's a long time.
It's ridiculous. Because I was such a guy who was like, I had just no interest in relationships. Not because I was like a swinging bachelor. Like that stuff gave me so much anxiety, and women probably thought I had a micro penis because like I had such like I've been on. I talk about this on stage a little bit, but like I've been on antidepressants since I was 12 years old, which like can really affect your libido, and did for me. So there'd be like times if you like were wanting to do something, but I was also like, I just don't want to. And I'm just like, I'd have like horrible performance anxiety and stuff. So the fact that I had like a successful relationship is amazing to me. But especially now where it's like, I don't care how people live their life. We're in a monogamous relationship, and I've never cheated on her, which sounds like I'm virtue signaling, but that's just because the bar is so low.
It is for 15 years. That's not a normal thing.
The bar is so low. And but now like, it's like cool almost to be like, we're poly. It's like kind of like woke to be poly. Mm-hmm. And there's almost sometimes this like, I get it. I at least real or imagined, I kind of feel the thing that's like, if you're monogamous, like you're basic and you're kind of lame and like almost like you're part of the problem. And I was just curious if like what kind of literature and articles are out there about monogamy, because I know it's shifting. I do believe it's a man-made construct and stuff, but I was just curious, like what kind of science is out there about now the ethics of it. And I didn't know what to put, so I googled, is it wrong to cheat on your wife? And I didn't delete my browser history.
It's just funny because we know that you didn't.
No, totally. But and then my wife came home, and I came home and my wife was home. We were sharing the same computer at this time, and she looked like very upset.
Oh,
yeah. And I was just like, "What's wrong, honey?" And she was great. She's like, "I don't want to like accuse you, but like how like I had to find this website I was on a few days ago. And did you Google, is it wrong to cheat on your wife?" And I was like,
you turned bright red.
Well, it's one of those things where like I was completely honest about it, and like she knows me well enough to know like I'm a dummy, but it sounds so stupid. And I was like, I was curious about like the science, and I talked my way out of it. Well, not out of it, as if like but I got to a point where like she knew, and like I'm very open with her because it doesn't happen a lot, but over 15 years, especially when you're doing comedy, if you go on the road, like opportunities have presented themselves, and I get so guilty if like if someone even thinks like this is a distinct possibility, I get guilty where I'm like, oh my God, did I like facilitate them thinking like, was I hitting on this person without knowing? So like I've told my wife when like, yeah, this person like wanted me to like go up to their hotel room or something. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I like led her to a place where she thought that would happen. She's like, oh my God, relax.
It's very sweet of you.
No, I really do love my wife. She's a good person, and she puts up with so much of my mental shit that I would never want to hurt her. But I just I explained it out, and we were cool. And then later that day, we just got our dog, and I was wondering, like, again, from a scientific standpoint, like, why are puppies as cute as they are?
So you Googled that?
So I Googled, why are puppies so cute? And then again, she had to find a website. Then she was just laughing at me. She's like, you're such an idiot. It's like, come on one day. Is it wrong to cheat on your wife? The next day, why are puppies so cute? I'm an infant.
Oh my God.
I'm such an idiot.
No, it's great.
Yeah, it was not a good 24 hours of Google search.
I feel like it ended on a great note.
Yeah, that's a lot more endearing. But then I kind of just started like fucking around, thinking if she needs to, and then like more than often it wouldn't, but I'd like put in the most disingenuous like, is it wrong to love your wife so much? Like, yeah,
that's good.
That's weird because off the top of my head, I think that's the only one. Other than I think there's one other one that I only told like once or twice that was kind of funny, but wasn't really a bit. That's the only one, and I've only told that one a handful of times.
You should tell it more.
Yeah, it's not. I think it could be funny. Again, I don't know what it is, but about like any kind of storytelling, I've just never really been into. Yeah, I guess I'm like actually in my own weird way. That's another thing with social media. Not to go back to that, but like I'm actually a very like private person. Like I don't want anybody to know anything about me personally. But
that's good.
Yeah, maybe
so much better.
Yeah, maybe I'll let him in more and just only tell stories, made up stories.
Well, both of the ones you said today were great and very
good. I was kind of worried they were going to be duds.
Not duds at all.
Good.
All right. Well, we'll finish it up before you have to go to your show. I don't know what time it is.
That's not a watch, is it?
That's not a watch. Let's see how long I'm going to go. Oh, perfect. 54 minutes.
Bang.
Okay. Well, that was fun.
That was fun. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed this. You're great, and I always like chatting with you.
Thanks for coming over to my heat box. So I was thinking at the end, try to smile or make a face for when I do the thumbnail. Because
I'm kidding. I'm not doing the react.
I don't think it's going to work.